So Fox says just in Minnesota's fraud scandal expands. I wonder what is going on. I've not watched this video, but we're gonna watch it together.
Now with some new information is someone who has been covering this story since the beginning. It's Alpha News journalist Liz Collin. Liz, thanks for being with us. You've been all over this story. What's the latest out of Minnesota?
Is that you're a refugee from a failed country? Hey, that's a good one. My failed country just sent some resources to Jamaica. You probably weren't here when we started, but that's good. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, we heard some pretty shocking numbers today, Will, at that press conference, talking about $18 billion paid out through these 14 programs that First Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson focused on. And he said, in his own words today, more than half of that money seems to be fraudulent. And the reporter asked, as much as 10 billion, and he quickly said absolutely. So he detailed just this explosive growth of these programs, focusing on just a few in these last few years. But I'll say that we've been checking out a lot of this for ourselves through many tips from our readers and viewers. And just this week, we visited a dozen sites, and to be honest, they all seem fraudulent. Empty adult daycares, empty autism clinics, no kids in sight, strange Google reviews that seem almost written in AI, would even look to be phony websites. And you can see right there for yourself online through a database how much money they're receiving. It's often hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars if you go ahead and total it up for the last few years. And there you see it, some nice luxury cars right in the parking lot of some of these businesses. We heard more about that today as well. Where's all this money going? Funneled to other countries. We heard that from Joe Thompson today, to Kenya. Someone even bought a semi-truck. Expensive homes.
Yeah, I saw. I heard a story from a local Kenyan vlogger, and this was even before this thing blew up. He was talking about how all those high rises was being built by Somalis. So when he did that video, and I'll try and find it. When he did that video on YouTube, that was way before the Somali thing happened. I think he did like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he was talking about, like, with joy. Like, he wasn't doing any malicious video. He was just talking about how Somalis are great business people and how he wants to shadow them and see how they do things. And he was pointing to all the high rises. I mean, you're talking 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-story buildings, like high rises up there in the sky. And like, oh, this is being built by some Somalis. I thought these were Kenyan Somalis, because Kenya did receive a big population of Somalis during the Somalian Civil War. And they've become Kenyans. They've lived there pretty much their whole lives. While he was saying that, I was thinking he was talking about local Somalis. So Kenya Somalis, let's put it that way. But I think what it was is it's connected to Somalis that live in the US or in the UK, somewhere in the US, most likely Minneapolis and Columbus. And some of these cases, like, I don't know why they are so held on to federal programs. Like, the federal government is the last place you want to make money. So, like, in my head, in my capitalist mind, I don't touch anything that has the US government on it. Like, I'm not in. A few years ago, there was an explosion of YouTube videos about how to get federal contracts and to get like Fed contracts. It was a big thing on YouTube. And people were talking about how they got their first contracts and how they are fulfilling those contracts, procurement and stuff. But I never had interest in it because it's federal. Like, if you're not on your A game, your A accounting game, you can get in a lot of trouble. You're gonna make a lot of money, but you can also get in a lot of trouble. So I always stayed away from this stuff. But the scale at which this was going on and how Minneapolis allowed it to go, I have a feeling that this is going to be much bigger than has been currently reported. And, again, I'm not trying to shit on Somalis. They're Africans. You guys know how I feel about my people. But I also don't support people that do things like that. And I don't want this to be one of those things where every Somali gets labeled, even though so far it's only a few of them. But if all these businesses, 6 more people charge, so now you're looking at about 20 people. How many more is out there? Okay. And I saw a news report today that the U.S. Department of Labor is also looking into unemployment fraud that happened during COVID within the Somali community. So that's some big shit going on there, man. It's not looking good.
International travel, you name it, that's where this money has gone. But really just eye-popping to see those numbers today in that press conference, Will.
So just to be clear, Liz, okay, because I think this story is incredibly important. Unfortunately, though, it can also, the perpetrators exist in the realm of phantoms for many people watching. Like, who are the bad guys? Who are the criminals? And that's why we got to put names and faces to this as well. And even the money, $10 billion, it's hard to wrap your mind around $10 billion. And even when it's going to Kenya, but I just want to be clear about one detail. So you went to a lot of these businesses, the autism clinics, the food shelters, the food clinics, and they're empty. They're vacant, but you still have luxury vehicles out front of these vacant businesses in Minneapolis?
Absolutely, and I'll say more times than not, they are traced back to Somali names. You can see that all online, and we've been reporting on this for quite some time. It's 90% of those that have been charged now by the U.S. Attorney's Office are Somali. It was 4 of the 6 today as well. But this really is out in the open. You can see it for yourself, the nice cars, the nice homes. And amazing to see now that perhaps this is catching up with some of these folks. But again, these were just this week that we visited, and they're still all open. So it's hard to say just where this dollar amount actually does stop.
That's incredible. It's truly incredible. Please keep us up to date, Liz. You're doing incredible reporting, and we appreciate you sharing it with this audience. Thank you.
That's crazy.
Minnesotans calling for accountability and the recovery of this misused money. The state's local Somali community also under scrutiny on allegations of involvement in this scheme. Secretary, tell us what you can here.
Well, unemployment insurance fraud has been exposed post-COVID. As you know, a lot of these states, whether they applied for waivers, whether there was organized crime, what we cannot have is stealing again from the American people and their tax dollars. Unemployment insurance trust fund needs to be whole, to be used for what it was intended, and that's to bridge a gap. For when somebody loses their job of no fault of their own, we want to bridge that gap until they can get another job. What we're seeing now is, massive fraudulent behavior, and we want to make sure that we're doing those full investigations. So, yes, I sent a letter out to the state of Minnesota asking them to supply us with reports of where those dollars have gone. We'll send out that UI strike team at the first of the year to make sure that we're diving in and making sure that we have a full investigation to recover the dollars that belong to the American people and not stolen from the.
A lot of those unemployment claims, indictments went overseas. When, like around COVID, when they were doing a lot of these, it actually went overseas. Man, the U.S. government has got to clean up the way it distributes money, because it's just a lot of fraud out there. I wasn't able to cover it today, but I'll definitely cover it on our. I'll probably let's do a live stream tomorrow. I want to stream Thursdays and Sundays only, but I think there's like 3 or 4 stories that I won't be able to cover tonight. So I'll come back to those tomorrow. So I'll do a short stream tomorrow to catch up on it, pretty much maybe about the same time or earlier. I got to, I got a few. There's a Funny Willis story that I needed to cover. I couldn't cover that, and then there's also a local story here in the Dallas area, and then Julius Malema has an update. There's a CNN story on the economy and inflation and Trump's numbers. I wanted to look at that too. But overall, I think Trump needs to, if he really, he's not running again, right? But I'm not optimistic for the Republican Party heading into the midterms. I think they've gotten so distracted with nonsense, and instead of focusing on free market economics, they're doing they're using their feelings. When you start making decisions based on how you feel, especially in today's high productivity economy, there's usually not an upside, man. I don't feel too confident that they're gonna pull through. I think the unemployment will hit 5% by mid-year next year. It's gonna be worse before it gets better. So